How many water company bosses have you held to account? And I mean, Labour said they would bring criminal charges against them, David.
But this is not about the bosses. This is about the companies, and it's forcing them to
Surely
invest
the bosses
in
are
improving
responsible for the
infrastructure.
companies.
And if we look at the example of Labour in power as they are in Wales, where the Welsh Labour government owns the water company, sewage discharges are at double the rate that they are under the Conservatives in England. And that
I mean,
shows
there's still
how
sewage discharges into our water. There are very few bodies of water in England. Let's talk about England, where the Conservatives are in power, for the moment anyway, that don't have sewage being dumped into it and being polluted. I mean, doesn't this say quite a lot about how the environment is being dealt with under the Conservatives, given that there are very few bodies of water, that you're just having this effluent actually just flowing into water? I mean, it's a horrible metaphor, really, for a lot of people.
We're all disgusted by it, and that's why it was important that when we took the power from Labour in 2010, and there was nothing
But you
effective in
haven't
place to
stopped
deal
it.
with it, we measured the extent of the problem. Now we know the extent, we've got the evidence, we put in place effective legislation to deal with that. And if you look at what's
Well,
happened,
it's not effective because it's still happening, David. We're still having sewage dumped into our bodies of water. It's still happening.
Respectfully, I disagree. I think if we look at what companies like
Is there no? Is there? Sorry, David. I just want to be clear here. Are you saying that there's no sewage being dumped into water at the moment?
we look at the investment that companies have been forced to put in by this government, things like the Thames Water super sewer, infrastructure measures to stop this happening, that's what the Conservatives are doing. And everybody knows it takes a long time. The sewers are buried under our houses. It's not something that you can simply wave a magic wand and fix overnight. It requires huge infrastructure investment. Having recognised, measured the scale of the problem, gathered the evidence, we've now taken effective action through legislation that is making companies focus on that. And that's what we need to see them doing if we're going to address this. And coming out with things saying there should be criminal charges, we've already seen with the likes of the post office. That has not held those people to account effectively. It's making sure that that business, which is legally responsible for what's done in its name, is held to account and faces serious sanctions that will really make the difference on this and so many other issues.
So just to be clear, David, you're saying that you don't think water bosses or indeed the heads of the post office over the past while should be held criminally accountable for what they did?
We can't afford to wait for the length of time it takes for criminal charges. The business is still there. That can be held legally accountable.
Well, Paula Venables, for example, sorry, David, Paula Venables isn't in charge of the post office anymore. She's not in that role. Do you not think she should be held criminally accountable? If there are criminal charges to face, she shouldn't face them because it takes too long?
All those bosses should face those charges. But what we can't
So they should face criminal charges?
What we can't do is leave people who are on the receiving end of this, who are the victims in this, waiting for years while we go off and indulge ourselves in a criminal process.
Indulging in a criminal process? David, seriously?
We need those businesses. We need those businesses that have got the money to pay the compensation, to fix the infrastructure. We need them to do that now. And satisfying as it will be to everybody to see some of the individuals held to account, we want to fix the problem. And that's where the Conservatives are different.
Can you do both?
What will make the difference, not just what looks good in the media.
Okay, David, I think some of the stuff you said is pretty astonishing.